Your boy making cold cuts, and I ain't talking about the sandwiches.
Oftentimes, right, we're not able to share our raw and unfiltered thoughts with other people, even when we want to, because we want their perspectives.
Gaming in general creates a space where you can be safe in doing that.
Someone just perceive, I mean, you don't know the fuck this Timmy from Timbuktu. You don't know, what I'm saying, what his culture is like, how, how his day went. But, the automatic discharge of negativity. It happens, right?
The layers of gaming and
Yeah.
gaming culture. I think there's a big gap between gaming and gaming as an industry and then gaming as a culture.
But part of the fun is winning, but obviously you can't win all the time. Pulling those moments of growth, right, and finding that progress within the loss is what makes them sustainable, right? It's how I can accept and rationalize, well, why did I lose? I like to lose because it invokes the competitive spirit within me, right? Oh, I know I can beat you. Let me hit the lab real quick and then bounce back. Let me rethink that strategy and then bounce back, right? Some might say that's a sore loser, but no, I think that
That's kind of winner.
that's how you become goaded. You got to get back in the lab and then hit the sticks again. Like I get bored if I win too many times in a row. I want to lose.
It's like a lot of people aren't aware of that shifting into that persona, and so they can't influence the amount of authenticity they live in that space.
Yeah.
All right, man. I gotta find a new way to start this shit because I feel like I don't want to be the dude. It's like, welcome to my YouTube. Like, I'll be saying that and I'll be weak every time. So I ain't gonna keep getting on here and be like, all right, we back. Like, it's whack to me. I'm gonna find a better way. But today, I got Vante on with me.
Yes,
This
sir.
one should be an interesting one because Vante and I came together through a mutual friend of ours. And I heard about this man for many years, but I had never met him. I still haven't technically met him. I think this is the second time we've talked virtually face to face, or I've seen what you look like, but
Yes.
we spent a lot of time on the game together of like
Yeah.
really chopping it up and getting into things. And so I definitely feel like I have a feel for like, if nothing else, your character, like what you stand for and your personality and your beliefs to a degree. And so when I was doing this and trying to figure out, next guests, like ideas, topics, you definitely came to mind for a
Thank
number of reasons. Like we've talked about a lot of things, and that's why I think today, when I thought about bringing you in, gaming was an easy thing that came to mind. I had another friend who I kind of have a similar relationship with, but in a very different way. Like white guy from Oregon, like almost polar opposites, but same kind of connection to where we were discussing getting into that. But I think whereas for him and I, we have a larger group of connected friends and the conversations we have are different. I think where you're a better fit for this conversation is because we've had that specific kind of groundwork for like a gaming conversation, like
you.
friendship, all those things. And so that's really where we'll pop off today and see where we go from there. I think
Cool.
I'm gonna pass it to you in regards to if there's anything you want the potential world to know about yourself, introduction wise, or anything you want to say before we jump into it.
Yeah, man. I think that's super valid, and I think a pretty comprehensive starting point. You know, mutual friend, right? And you and him have known each other since childhood. Him and I met later on in adult life, but really just clicked and meshed. Sometimes it happens like that to where you haven't even known somebody for that long, but then it's just chemistry, right? And it's a brotherhood. And so, through that's how you and I, kind of started chopping it up in really a group chat setting, but found ourselves really
No doubt about
resonating with what each other had to say, and then it evolved into us gaming, and then just a friendship starting from there, man. So yeah, happy to be here. Thanks for having me, man. And let's get into it. Chop it up.
I love the segue because that's perfect. It's crazy because I completely put that shit out of my mind. Completely forgot that's where it started. But I think that speaks to where I usually was wrapping it up. I think I would love to start here this time because of the conversation topic of I really haven't had one of the things that I think has helped me keep going with this is that I've been able to only have people on that I have a very specific and wide respect for in unique ways. And I think I love being reminded of that in this moment because respect, I'm like, shit, I might have to do a whole video on that another time of like it's a
That
very
could be
important
multiple
thing.
videos.
Bro, I'm like, and I find a lot of people just don't think about it. They don't prioritize it. And I think that's one of the things that definitely stuck out to both of us of like the importance of respect and like a mutual defining and almost morality surrounded by it of like being principled from that place and like operating in certain ways, I think allows for that kind of subtext or conversation that starts to have happen long before you even start engaging with people directly. Of like, that's what was really interesting to me in that group setting of like not being in there. But I remember thinking to myself on multiple occasions, I'm like, Vante don't even be in here like that. But every time he in here, I find myself agreeing with this. You know what I'm saying? Like, I couldn't have
Yeah,
said it myself type of deal. And so that's
yeah,
another big layer of what I was thinking. I was like, I would love to have Monte on the podcast because I definitely have, it's been a new experience for me to have this kind of developing relationship. I think one thing is we're both from like I know a lot of people from Portland who are like a lot of my friends are from Oregon, they're from Portland, but they're not from the same Portland that you, Quandre, and I are from. Of like it's a very different experience, especially with a city like Portland that goes through these weird time changes to where it's like the Portland we grew up in don't exist no more that
that's true.
quickly. And so there's a limited amount of us who can be kindred spirits in that way and have that experience to live through that perspective in. And so when we have that evolution of like being able to move from the group chat space into a more direct line of communication and start having these games, like, Quandre has been busy. And so it's really just been me and you gaming and like getting more into that development that I think sets the stage for something like this that has been a
Yeah.
very interesting progression.
I would definitely agree. Because we kind of just like the Three Musketeers, right? Like, all three of us will pull up, get them runs in. But when you're left to just be on that one-on-one with somebody, it allows for a deeper understanding to and development of the relationship to occur. You know what I'm saying? And so I think that, obviously like it's been tough with me and you just running with the randoms and like just being losing our minds because it's like what's going on, man, like it would be so simple if you just did this and that. It's also been very very good for the development of our friendship and whatnot. So yeah, man, I think that it's gaming is one of those things where for some people it's just like a decompression. For others it's a medium in which you can link with the homies and just kind of chop it up. Sometimes you find yourself not even really focusing on the game as much as like the conversation that you may or may not be having, right? And so that's the beauty of it, right? So absolutely.
And I love that piece of it too when we talk about the layers of gaming and
Yeah,
gaming culture. I think there's a big gap between gaming as an industry and then gaming as a culture and
yeah,
what a lot of people choose to do in that engagement. It's like it's funny because you almost take on a different persona, but it's different in the sense of like that bridged gap between is like one of the things that definitely resonated with me is like a lot of people aren't aware of that shifting into that persona, and so they can't influence the amount of authenticity they live in that space. And so
yeah.
when I met you and we were starting to have that movement over into that, I'm like, oh no, those you know what I'm saying? Like principles, morality, like these things, like
Very
respect, they carry over in a
yeah,
way that you don't see
Absolutely.
it. And I'm like, and that to me, I can't even express what that means to me internally in terms of how I interact with people as I continue to meet them and like engage with them further. It's like when you build that rapport, it's a learning that's happening of like how
Yeah.
to engage with people. How real can I be? How much of myself can I be?
Yeah, and I think that, there's people that I know that there's people that you've met, right? There's people that I've met who beyond gaming, it could be in a different space that you meet them, and then as soon as the environment changes a little bit, oh, you're a completely different person now, right? Like there's, the level of respect or what you are willing to do without consideration of how it could damage me for your own personal gain, things change, principles change, or they disappear entirely. So, when you meet somebody that you're like, no matter what, you're the same person, you're the same dude, I can rock with that. You know what I'm saying? It's a blessing, bro. It really is.
Man, and it's one that I find, especially in this season of my life, where I'm like, bro, I just wasn't even like, I always had a faith, but it wasn't something I was conscious of or exploring or anything like that. I find myself becoming more aware of those kinds of blessings. The things that, it's easy. They'd be like, oh, pray, like manifest. Like, I feel like those things are easy. It's
Yeah.
harder when you're like, oh, a blessing that I didn't really think to ask for or pray for, of like being aware of how it impacts you and changes your day to day. Of like,
Yeah.
we're both very competitive too, which is another thing I love, but makes it tough. Like when we don't have that, when we're missing a musketeer, it's hard to go into battle. Like we still cooking and eating, but I find that part of me manifesting in ways that I don't like. But it helps to have that kind of comrade where it's like, again, there's a safety that's created in a gaming community when we speak to, yes, we see people change and shift, but the other side of that authenticity of like having somebody like just gaming in general creates a space where you can be safe in doing that. And
Yeah.
so I don't want to say it's a lower level, but it's a different thing when we talk about why we refer to it as a blessing with what we have here of like in general and with other groups. I love gaming and I know you do as well because we've talked about that. But I found when I game in this group setting, the difference being I can have more freedom to not self-regulate. I think one of the things I think we talked about briefly too is like I've been very independent up to this point in my life and in my journey. In a lot of ways I didn't ask to be. And so that creates a self-sufficiency or self-reliancy that's really hard to let go of as you start to try to develop, cooperation and like those kinds of skills that you need to have in the world outside of sports and, social studies. You're like, once you're out of school, you have to seek that. And in the corporate world, it's crazy work trying to do it there. And so I think gaming serves itself really nicely to do that. But that difference that I'm talking about again is like with certain groups, I got to stay on my own reliance on that. I can't really rely on somebody else in the way that I found myself being comfortable doing in this group that we've created with this trio of like,
Tell me
hmm.
more about
And so when I say that, I mean like we've had a number of times in the games where it's like, dysfunction or discord will always arise. The question
it.
is, how do you move through it? Do you move through it? Like, what is your reaction to it? And so a lot of times that's what I mean when I talk about that self-reliance or self-sufficiency of like, I can't, and I hate to say it like this, but I gotta be real of like, I can't rely on other people's input. I can't trust it. I can't really always take it to the bank. I have to consider their feelings, perspective, and like almost motives of like not just consciously, but unconsciously. I think there's a lot of things that people unconsciously aren't aware of. And I've always been very aware in that way because of that reliance that I'm talking about. And so I find myself considering others first to the point of like how would that affect me if I let them in? Where this trio, partially, Quandra I know my whole life, but it specifically turns to you because I haven't known you my whole life. But it begins to start feeling like And yet you in this group with a quandary where I'm like, everybody don't make it in that group. Everybody doesn't, you see, like the energy usually has to change.
Yeah.
And so when we're in a game and I'm like, I'm starting to rage out and like I'm not really like I'm a learner for sure, but I'm like I don't learn from everybody in the same way. It's like we're taking this charge. I can depend on you because you share certain morals and perspectives. So like he understands what I'm trying to achieve here. It's like I'm not just trying to win. I'm trying to win it a certain way. Like like I want to get a little disrespectful. Like I'm not gonna be judged for that.
Yeah,
he like having somebody you can share your thoughts with without having to filter them, and not in a way where it's all this like the world has become a way in that regard right lately, but that's different from what I'm talking about of like unfiltered in the sense of that sharing of like a communal building, a cooperative molding of one's character, thoughts, and perspectives in a way that you don't have to think about. It's just on autopilot of like we get on the game, we're chopping it up, like we're sharing ideas and thoughts with the underlying intent to get another's perspective who we respect, but may
absolutely.
not agree.
Absolutely. And what stands out to me about what you just said is that oftentimes, right, we're not able to share our raw and unfiltered thoughts with other people, even when we want to, because we want their perspectives. I know that in some regard or in some circumstances with certain people, they wouldn't be able to handle or process my raw and unfiltered, right? And so they wouldn't even be able to understand what the underlying intent was or why I'm phrasing it that way intentionally and specifically. They would just be stuck on what they heard, not what it actually entails or what it implies, right? And so, yeah, it can be stifling. I recently had a conversation with Quandre about that, right? About that very topic just yesterday, in fact. You
Crazy how
know,
that works.
and what was interesting to me, he said, but why shouldn't we be able to share it raw and unfiltered? Why does me why do I have to be concerned with the way that it will be perceived? Why should that change the way that I deliver that and convey that message?
Mm.
Well, and that comes back to my point is sometimes it's not worth dying on that hill, right? Even if I know what I have to say is valid, if I say it in this space, are any of these people going to be able to facilitate what I would be asking for by delivering that message? Are they capable of comprehending, understanding that information? If not, no point in sharing it. You know what I'm saying? I could still just off principle,
Mm.
but is it worth my energy?
Is it going to help that development that you're really after?
It may not. So, man,
Yeah, I know.
we then got into emotional intelligence versus regular intelligence. Are they mutually exclusive?
Mm.
Right? Is it emotional intelligence if I'm aware of my feelings, even when they may be irrational? Some would say yes, right? But then if I still choose to act in a way that is unfavorable to my longevity because of my emotions, do I have high emotional intelligence but low regular intelligence? Because that would be making a stupid decision, arguably.
Two separate. Yeah, I think you've just nailed right where that gap splits those things, where you now dipped into the other side, and the other side ain't hitting like this other side was hitting,
You
and you
know?
find out.
Yeah. So we are talking at what point does that shift happen? You
Mm.
know,
And are you
or can you
aware of it when it does?
and yeah, I think that when you are aware of it, right? It's when you're aware of it, but you still make that decision that I would argue that was that intelligent or was that stupid? Like,
Mhm.
or is the principle, is that enough justification for there to be no hit to either one?
And that's
I
where I
think
find
that's
our
bro.
trio to be so valuable of like when you hear me raving about this new experience of like I find this dynamic that we've created between the three of us really allows for a lot of exercises in that rapidly in a way that really doesn't deteriorate our relationships in any regard, which is so rare. It's so
Yeah,
rare, and especially with gaming, because gaming is inherently frustrating. Like that's part of the
it is.
fun. Like
It
it's part of
is.
the
And I think especially when you're playing a game that has teams, squads, where there are multiple variant, there's a variation in roles between each squad member, so it requires everyone to fulfill a certain function. And on top of that, right, people may fulfill those functions in different ways or have different strategies and then different personalities. It creates this extremely complex web, right? And underlying all that is the goal of the game, right? So how do we win this game, right? Because as you've seen, we take predecessor for an example. You know, the teams can become toxic extremely quickly, right? Extremely quickly, man. And sometimes it's like not even really prompted. It could be like a regular comment, but someone just perceive. I mean, you don't know the fuck this Timmy from Timbuktu. You don't know, what I'm saying, what his culture is like, how his day went. But the automatic discharge of negativity. It happens, right? And so still trying to fulfill your role and get that dub the way that you want to get that dub, right? Uh that's the like you said, the beauty of it. Because when it
man.
works out, I mean, it's extremely gratifying. But when it doesn't, and you just, dump 30 to 40 minutes into a match, man, it's tough. It's
Especially back-to-back matches, like when you talk about that energy exchange and the power of it to shift, of like to take your day from, you know, you get on a run, your day goes up.
yeah.
Or it compounds that other way. I'm like, I didn't even feel that bad when I got on the game, but
Yeah,
now it's lingering. It's sitting with you.
it does, bro. So it's time invested, right? And so even if what you're doing isn't meaningful in the way that it's going to make you more money or get you that promotion. This playing this game is how I'm decompressing. I don't want the time to not be well spent. I want to preferably spend my time winning, right? Or, if it is a super close game and both teams were playing really well and you barely lose that game, I can't be mad at it because I can still glean information and get better for the next one. You know what I'm saying? So
And that in itself is another thing that I think has become glue. When I talk about things that allow for that I'll use the word vulnerability that I was talking about, where it's like because we're talking like a lot of the cooperation required in this trio, it requires trust. And trust is not, that's really what it comes down to. Of like when I'm speaking to like I just don't trust. And this has been a running thing for me of like because I've been taught I can't. And so when we're cooperating to these degrees and these different functions and these different roles, it's like, oh, these are two people I can trust in the way of like their goal is not just to win, it's to grow and learn. Like, how do you lose is very important to me as a competitor. Somebody may be nice or good at winning, but if they don't know how to lose, I just can't rock with it because it's really not just about winning for me. And I had to learn that early that that's not as common as I would have thought. And so when I meet people who understand that what you just articulated of like, yeah, we lost, but it's like it's not just about fun either. Because I would love to be like, but we having fun. It's like, ain't nothing
well,
fun. Yeah.
yeah,
Like,
part of the fun is winning, but obviously you can't win all the time. So pulling pulling those moments of growth, right, and finding that progress within the loss is what makes them sustainable, right? It's what how I can accept and rationalize, well, why did I lose? Well, we just got clapped, right? They were just better. Okay. But what were they better at, right?
Exactly.
What could I do to get there? So I think that that's extremely important. But some people don't have that drive, or they don't thrive in that loss, right? And I'm the type of person, whether it's gaming or beyond, where I like to lose because it invokes the competitive spirit within me, right? Oh, I know I can beat you. Let me hit the lab real quick and then bounce back. Let me rethink
Man,
that strategy and then bounce back, right? Some might say that's a sore loser, but no, I think that
that's kind of winner.
that's how you become goated. You got to get back in the lab and then hit the sticks again, you know?
Man.
And for me, like I was like the youngest, right? So like my older brother was 5 years older than me, and then all my cousins were older than him. And I mean, I had to have been like three, right? Four. So I'm on the sticks with them. They whooping my ass, no mercy, right?
No mercy.
So it's like when I'm gonna cry and stop playing. No, I wanted to play, so I just had to keep running the fade. Whether it been Tekken, Mortal Kombat, it didn't matter. We running the fade. You know what I'm saying? So, over time, that's really what I think helped that develop within me, and that's
Mm.
why I don't. Yeah, it's like I get bored if I win too many times in a row. I want to lose. So, yeah,
Woo! Bro,
yeah,
this right here. This is what I do this for because you just
yeah,
articulated again when I talk about taking the words right out of my mouth. It saves me the time of trying to express this thing that I know is in there because
yeah,
I know you're onto something because I resonate with it as
yeah,
truth. I'm like I look back on my life and I'm like, I mean, you know those memes where he's like, oh, this nigga spitting. It's like definitely
yeah.
had that moment as I listened to you say, because that is definitely concrete, practically things that lead to what we're talking about over a long period of time, being taught how to lose and being taught what it means to win, because just winning over and over again is not fulfilling. You want
Right.
to grow. You want to keep growing. You want to leave that growth process with the win instead of an L because that means you efficiently grew. You were learning in real time. You were evolving in real time. Like you was in the zone. That zone is hard to hit.
It is, bro. And sometimes, you can hit it by yourself. I think that's actually ideal. I love grouping up and running with y'all and running with the squad. But I think when I'm solo queuing, right? So, Fred is another example, right? Teams of squads of five. When I'm solo queuing, team of five, five different roles. I have one role out of those five. And if I can still thrive despite certain team members being asked or certain roles not being fulfilled, right? It's like I know I have a weak point here in the duo lane. I'm running carry, right? How can I find a way to impact the overall battlefield to still to offset, right? The weak link or the weak point, right? How can I create an advantage enough within my role to lead us to that victory? Right? To lead us to that dub. So, and I like chess. So I feel like when I'm playing certain games that rely heavily on team strategy, I mean, that's the gold spot for me. That's the point where I feel like I'm really in my element and I've found something that I can express that my personality through,
Mm.
right? Um, Single player games, like I've played some great ones. I don't play single player games, bro. It just doesn't do it for me because I need that player to player interaction. Just PvE and a good story is not enough to keep me involved. And I don't feel the replay value there, right? So I need to play a multiplayer competitive game, and and that's really what I think keeps me in gaming.
And
So
that's such a great segue because it makes me think about what you've added, at least in my opinion, I'm like, I can only imagine Juice and his thoughts and like this, but of like, because again, I have known him a long time, and it's not like we weren't gaming before we linked up with you, but we weren't gaming like this. And I think that's something we have to, or at least for me as an analytic, like I'm a noticer. I've always been a noticer. And
yeah,
so it's like I knew about these team games, and it's not that I hadn't played them or a version of them, but I wasn't playing games like this because it wasn't doing it for me in that sense. And it's not that I don't understand what you're expressing or relate to it. It's that this is so it's so beautifully articulated because it helps me then take what you're adding and almost reveal bigger parts of the picture. Because I'm like, since we started gaming with you, you've been able to get us to expand our horizons in a way that we weren't before. It's not that others didn't try. It's that, again, that trust factor. It's like, this, you know what I'm saying? This is another dog. Like everybody, like people love to say this. Everybody want to be a dog. It's like that Paul Mooney quote. Say, everybody want to be black. Nobody want to be a nigga. Everybody want to be a dog when you eat. You don't want to be a dog in the streets hungry. Like they don't want that part of that story. And it's
Yeah,
like when you have somebody who can walk the walk and talk the talk, you're willing to engage them in a way you simply won't if it is not authentic in that way. And so when we start, you see what I'm saying? That's why a lot of times you'll hear me telling you it's like you got to be the one to deliver that because I'm like it's not gonna come the same from me. I you said like I there's so much in what we say that there's stuff packaged in those words already that we're not aware of. It's like your experience comes out in everything that you said. So even when we're in agreement, the experience is different. And that's so much of this has become so much clearer to me in our dynamics and our discussions because I'm like most of the time we all agree. And
yeah,
yet we can get to this place of mass opposition and disagreement seemingly because of those nuances and differences in our experiences. And you see it form these weird things where it's like it keys us into our roles. It's like we all really kind of plug and play. Like we can all like everybody can't do everything, but it's like we all have the ability to thrive because of that learning curve that we just described of like that hunger to improve and grow will lend itself to you in any role. But then there's those roles where there's that natural affinity and
yeah,
like being able
absolutely.
to find those pockets and like glean that. It's like you bring a perspective and an experience specifically in the gaming scene that leads us to be willing to follow that. You see what I'm saying? Where it's like that's what I love about our group. It's like we're all willing to we nobody wants to lead, but we're all willing to step into that role when it's appropriate. That's a very hard balance to find.
Yeah, but that's beautiful though, man, because there are a lot of times where people could potentially have that, but they can't put their ego in check. They can't put their pride to the side. And bro, it's like nobody's perfect. Everyone has their strengths and their weaknesses. And when you happen to be fortunate enough to find a group of people that you can trust that are like-minded in the sense that the general foundation of the values and principles you guys share is the same, but you guys the means might be have slight variances. That's okay, right? Because I think that then allows for a greater synergy, greater opportunities to learn, to trust and confide in one another, knowing that we're on the same page at the end of the day, right? And also there's times where it's just like you got to say, brother, you're tripping. You know what I'm saying? It's like there's
Right.
a constant tempering of mentality that's happening. And especially when you're gaming, when we're talking about loadout ideas, when we're talking about, well, why wouldn't you want to run this character in this role or in this position? Well, it's not that they can't, but it's not ideal. Why not? Because there's somebody there's X amount of character that can do it better, right? Or your farming or sustain's not going to be enough for you to stay in lane when you're going against these really strong laners, right? So it's that constant developing. And there's been times where you all have even said things that have caused me to second guess, like, well, actually, no, this item might be a better decision. Right. And so we're all constantly learning together. And to me, that's fun. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fun for me.
And that's
So
where I'm like, I think we're all in agreement that that's where the fun lies. And
yeah,
that in itself, I think is the glue that binds us together. Not to be cliche of like having that, like that, because we never really had that conversation in that way. Like, we're not all like, yeah, we all just want to learn to play together. Like, this is not Mr. Rogers' neighborhood. Like, we like, nah, fuck that. We finna win. But not taking that approach and still moving with those synergies of like so much of the conversation that we have, we don't have to have. it saves us a lot of time to get to those places of like, I can express this to you because I know you're gonna hear me. You know I'm not stupid. I may be ignorant to this game, but my approach is you know what I'm saying? Like there's a systemic approach that I'm taking as I receive information that allows that exchange to stay clean, like a river. It's like there is when you talk about moving your ego out the way, it's like you want to move it, you don't want to discard it. I feel like there's a lot of conversation about discarding or suppressing one's ego. That's why when we talk about Blue Lock, I think that's why you and I love that anime so much of like it's about learning how to consciously invoke and suppress one's ego in competition. It's like, how do you bring out that, there's a term they use in it that, ooh, just gave me chills of like, they use like the chemical analogy, where it's like you're creating a chemical reaction between one ego and another that creates this synergy and it takes y'all to another place. And when you do that in a game, to me, it's the ultimate fulfillment. And it's the ultimate analogy of like this weird social experiment of like, and you leave that game simulation with something that you can take into the world of like, something
Yeah.
just happened there.
Yeah, and going back to the beginning of how us gaming together really started, right? You and Juice had been mentioning to me for a while, right? Hey, CCM, hop on Texas Chainsaw.
Yeah.
I I can say that that was a genre of game, those horror survival games was I mean, I had known of Dead by Daylight. I had never really invested any time. I think maybe I had played one match as a killer, really wasn't my jam. But when I hopped on TCM with you guys, it was a different feeling because I mean we were absolutely killing stuff, bro, with the family. But then when we were running survivors, it's a different level of depth, I think, and the lengths you have to go through to get that dub. And likening that to predecessor, it seems like there's not any connections there, but both of them are objective based team play, right? And that's what I've always thrived on, like cooperative, multiplayer games, competitive multiplayer. So the element of teamwork and strategy to get that dub at the end of the day, right? I think is what gives a game replay value for me, right? And a lot of the games that I play nowadays are free games. Whether it be like Warframe, predecessor, Smite was free. It
Rematch.
seems Rematch is free, right? Which to me is crazy. It's a phenomenal game, and I think that what is being seen and what will continue to be seen is that the quality of paid games that they put out now is diminished significantly.
Mhm.
What happens now is companies put out incomplete products and then put out expansions that you then have to pay for, right? When really back Nintendo, PS2, those would have just been complete games that were released, right?
Yep.
The quality and attention to detail was much greater. Now they can release a game for 70, $80 and feel like people will still buy it. And people will. We see it every year with Madden and 2K,
Man.
and so um, that's why I really find myself being drawn to a game that is multiplayer competitive, like TCM, like predecessor, because you know that is a complete game. It's a strategy game. It's like chess, right? It's the value is in being able to replay matches with different variables, different characters, different players, different personalities, and different roles, and being able to just start with a clean slate, a fresh board, and try to get to the end to kill the king. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, that's really what drives me at this point with gaming.
And you know what's crazy? And I'm like, oh, we've gotten so far. We're ahead of schedule here, usually. But when you say that, I can't help but like, because it's so true in the context that you're saying it, and yet it's so true on the bigger stage as well. It
Yeah.
becomes that allegory for all of life and society as we've created it, and capitalism, of like we see all these things that we end up talking about on the game. It's because we understand that. It's like in thinking about this game, we're like, why do they do that? this is the same thing that's happening in real life. This is the same, and it's like it's that same sentiment of like the reason our trio works in the game is because it works in real life. The things that brought us together in real life service us in the game. It's like we see these things happening. We see it's like, oh, this is stale. None of
Yeah,
us are in a place in life where it's like life is life. Like people like us ain't supposed like, bro, there's a lot of people from our community from when we grew up that ain't like us. They're just
yeah,
not.
absolutely.
But
Yeah,
it's
man.
that same way. They're not. It's like these things take on a bigger life of like it's a game until it's not, and that's what I mean by it's like you leave that simulation with something, and although and see they're trying to strip away from the simulation because you leave with something. They're trying to leave you incomplete. It's crazy when I think about it. Of like as an allegory of like our foods are incomplete. They're processed. They're over processed. You know, they're trying to add shit to it and take shit out of it that's naturally in there. Like they're trying to make the game less complete to get more money out of it, but you'll get more money out of it as the game is more complete. And moving away from that as a means of control, it's like we don't want complete players. Complete players are dangerous. It's like we got to keep everything fresh and new. Like one of the things I love of like when you talk about the difference in like a predecessor, it's like it doesn't matter how cold you are at that game. You can fuck around and lose any match if you're not careful. If you're not
Yeah,
aware of the danger of the loss, you open
yeah.
yourself up to it because it's not, you know what I'm saying? Like you can impact, you could be going crazy and you still might lose. There's been several games we played where we were getting washed. Our whole team is getting washed. And somehow we got the dub.
Sometimes it works out like that, but then sometimes there's that critical error. Don't chase that enemy into the jungle. It's a trap,
Oh,
right? And then the randoms do it anyways, and boom, team wipe. A game that we were up 30 kills to 10 kills, we just lost.
we just lost. We over here killing their whole squad except for that one man pushing our whole tower, and now we over
Yeah,
here wiped everybody but one, and the game is over. And we're like, because we got overconfident in our domination, and so it's like things like that where you take away from the game are readily applicable in real life. And it's like I'm
right,
not thinking about it in that moment, but I'm still leaving with that understanding subconsciously. And that's why I
yeah,
think the power of the gaming culture and system remains ever present. And that's why you see this subconscious draw to it, not just from the consumers, but from these companies or like these media companies trying to get into games. There's like companies who don't know shit about gaming are trying to pay for somebody to make a game because they're like, there's something going on here.
yeah. And it's even when you look at like MOBAs, battle royales, bro, like they're released as free games, right? And Fortnite, it's so counterintuitive that releasing it as a free game is going to generate you millions, if not billions of dollars, right? And microtransactions, right? I mean, it's crazy to see that how the state of everything has changed. But I mean, you still have companies that are releasing it as a one-time $70 payment when clearly that's not the model, right? When you want to build something that's going to last years, right? That's going to be able to carry on to the next generation of
And
consoles.
change
That
culture.
that's exactly right. I mean, how many elementary school kids are running around, doing the Fortnite emojis, and the
Man,
dances that they're doing from those are old school dances that they just think is a Fortnite dance. So it's like literally helping culture to perpetuate and carry on. It's crazy,
and
crazy.
we're just thinking, oh, it's Fortnite, it's a game. It's like, nah, this shit is deep. Some of
Yeah,
them kids ain't even played Fortnite, never even played it, but know the dances,
you know
know
what
the
I'm saying?
characters.
And my kids, 10, 7, right? 3. So my 10-year-old, my 7-year-old, they love Fortnite, right? And at first I wasn't a fan, but what brought me to it was that it was something that I could bond with them, right? And but beyond that, when I clap somebody and catch a body and then I hit the Dougie on and cat daddy on his body, on his sports, something about that really just sustains me. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, for sure. Because again, it's like it's experience. You're leaving with the experience. It's like you would never do that in real life because
Yeah.
for all the reasons. But in this game, though,
You know what I'm saying? And also it's just like the it just brings back memories, bro. It's man, like the Cat Daddy, the Dougie, like when we were younger, right? Like these kids nowadays aren't that's not the dancing that they're doing. Like it's TikTok dances, it's something
you
different,
catch
right?
that body and they see you and they're like, hold up, what was that? That was kind of icy.
Right, right. So it's like the nostalgia because they kind of bring in those throwback moments. And I think that's very intentionally done and it's smart because yes, you're going to have that generation of younger kids who are really into this because of the bright colors, because of like the cartoonish features, but then they're bringing in bits of nostalgia to also attract that older generation back to it. So it's like the perfect marrying, right, of different
Mhm.
generations and it creates something I think that's pretty special.
It creates community, which has been
Absolutely.
removed systemically over time. It's like, but that's the thing about the highest truths or universal truths, as I refer to them, like universal truths are things that exist beyond our control. It's like community is one of those things. As human beings, we seek it. We seek
Right.
community. And
Yep.
while it has to change and evolve in the way it manifests, community always exists. Society didn't even like society as we know it today would not have existed unless we had that innate desire to group together, to communicate, to work together, to
Yep.
understand one another. Yes, there is discord and strife and violence and all the things, but that is the innate understanding. The question
Yep.
is, how aware of it are we in regards to our actions and our choices? I think there's a conditioning that has convinced a lot of us in this time period of like when strife hits, the danger is fear because fear leads us to disregard those truths, those things we know to be true of like we are all in this together. Are we
Yep.
though? Me, 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 me. You starting with
Well,
me, and there ain't gonna be no us. Can't be a me without us.
there's cultures, right? Like this is our culture, but then there are subcultures, right?
Mhm.
And I think at the end of the day, it's like which one transcends the other, right? My loyalty to my culture or to the subculture within that culture, right? Gaming, everything has a culture and a subculture, right? And within gaming, our subculture would be our group, right? Our group that we link up and we run these objective team-based games, right? That's a niche, right? That's a subculture within gaming. And ultimately, at the end of the day, I'm gonna blame the random first every time,
Every
you know?
time, bro. He's not like us. He's
No,
not
he's
with us.
not.
He
He's
with us,
not.
but he ain't with us. He ain't getting with the program. He's fucking
He's
it
not,
up.
he's not, he's not a part of the subculture. He gets blamed first. No.
Facts. Report that nigga.
Absolutely, bro. I know my block list is stupid long.
Man,
So yeah, bro. Yeah, it's crazy to think, 2 years ago, right? I mean, how long was it ago that we started running TCM?
I think it's if it hasn't been full 2 years, I think we're going on 2 years. At the end of this year, we will have passed 2 years because we started around like I want to say June or like towards the end of the year. Like it was right before the holidays because that's when, everybody was getting free time to game.
Facts. Yeah, man. Even trying to look back on what gaming looked like to me back then, I think it's a lot different than what it looks like now, bro. It's like, we have a whole group chat that we split off, right? Slightly because, partially because of the fact that it was us three gaming together, but also because personalities just clashing in the bigger group chat, and it made more sense just to break off and do something different. But something as simple as hitting the chat like, "Hey, man, I'm about to load up, pull up if y'all can." That's much different than what gaming looked like to me 2 years ago. You know what I'm saying? So it's the little things, but I think a lot of people who aren't in the gaming community or who don't game because they're passionate about and love gaming could never understand. To them, it's like, maybe you take your regular 23, 25-year-old man, right?
Mhm.
And maybe he has a girlfriend, right? And the girlfriend just doesn't get it. There's a lot of people who just say, I don't understand why you want to play that game all day. Well, to me, it's decompression, right? It's passion, it's linking up with the homies, it's grouping up to accomplish some kind of greater goal. It's playing chess. There's all these other things that it is that you just couldn't understand if you're not in it yourself,
And I
right?
can't articulate it for you.
I can't articulate it for you. It's just something that you innately will understand and develop over time as you become more immersed in it yourself, right? And even within gaming, there's different kind of gaming IQs that you develop over time. And to me, the most profound one for myself even is the understanding of how to run a MOBA, right? And I think now you've gotten to a point where you've cross that threshold yourself to where you're like, yo, what the fuck? He clearly doesn't know how to fucking play because there's no reason that you would be able to articulate to me why the fuck you chose to go that far up with no wards, right? You have no
Hey,
business.
and it's like I remember being like I heard these words. You did articulate, but I couldn't understand. It's like you're speaking a language to me, and I know what the words and the characters represent, but I don't have the understanding to speak it back. There's
Yeah,
that gap. Until you immerse yourself in that culture, you will not retain that language.
yeah. And I think MOBAs are really special too because out of all the different gaming genres, it is probably, in my opinion, one of the most unique ones. The only
Because
thing
it's
that
the
I would
most
say
complicated.
comes the most complicated, bro. The only thing that I would say maybe comes close is hero shooters, something like your Overwatch or your Marvel Rivals, where you have legends with different powers, right? Uh, that you still have somewhat of a role to fulfill.
Yeah,
That would be the only thing that I would say that comes close. Battle Royales, that one's arguable, but I think that's different though.
it's different. Because you
Different,
don't
right?
have that. The roles are not defined. You're not forced into the role like these other games. And so it
Yeah,
allows for the free role where dominance and other things can circumvent. With the MOBA, you are forced into a role. And if you are penalized for not playing it,
absolutely. A million different things I can report you for. AFK, didn't play assigned role,
and
feeding. What is feeding?
intentional feeding is
You
crazy
know,
work.
even that in and of itself, that's a term that is specific to MOBAs. You know what I'm saying? You're
And
intentionally
you'd be
feeding.
like, why would anybody ever do that? It's like, you ain't been in the culture.
Right, because when you come across that toxic player that didn't get to play the character that he wants to play, well, I'm going to intentionally feed for 30 minutes, right? And then we're all stuck running a 4v5, and not even that, because running the 4v5 would still be better, but it's a 4v6 because you're intentionally getting them stronger. You know
That's
what I'm
an op.
saying?
You got
Yeah,
he
you're
didn't
an
switch
op.
to the other side. He
You're an
giving
op that
out all
I
the
can't,
trade secrets.
you know, the op that I can't kill. Like, what
I
am I supposed
can't kill, man. No amount of dominance is gonna save that game for you because he's selling in his role.
Yeah, man, it's tough. It's tough work, bro. But I found that lately I have not been getting that level of toxicity. I used to get that a lot more in Smite in particular, which I think is unfortunate that we never actually got to embark on that Smite journey. For whatever reason, I just wasn't running Xbox. I was on PlayStation so much back then.
Mhm,
Um, but yeah, I mean, even that in of itself, I had PlayStation and Xbox, bro. My Xbox would just collect dust, but because you and Juice, right? My
mhm,
primary console changed to being my Xbox. I don't even boot up my PlayStation anymore like that. You know what I'm saying? So,
mhm.
right? It's crazy.
Crazy, man. And with that, I'm gonna start wrapping it up because I'm like, man, we've reached a level of depth where it can branch off into everything else, and I think we've hit a lot of great nuggets that start those synapses, if you will, like those lines of thought are now opened up and taking something that seems unrelated and breaking it down and connecting it in a way that's digestible for those who are not as deeply entrenched. Like again, when you talk about like articulation, understanding, it's like everybody doesn't have a strategist mind. And so
Yeah.
when you take people and you put it like that's the beauty of cooperation. It's like everybody can't be everything. They can't be the same thing. But are we sharing information? Are we taking the time to communicate, to exchange, to add?
Yep.
And so again, it's like I can't thank you enough for doing this with me because it's always a gratifying feeling to get to that place where I'm like, it's always a thought in your mind or an idea until it takes form. When it's like, oh, Vante would be great for the podcast. But I know I'm like, this man got all kinds of things. Like this could have been us gaming, getting everything that we just
It would have
described.
been.
We just
It would have
did.
been, you know.
You know what I'm saying? But instead, we both took the chance on doing this and seeing the potential. And I think, at least for me, and I can only hope for you, I'm like, having done it, I'm like, extremely valuable. Even if, three people see this.
I'll be back, brother. You know, this ain't nothing but a word. I know it took a while to finally get here, but now that I've been, you know what I'm saying, and I know what it is, bro, absolutely. Shoot me the invite. I'd love to maybe one of these days have me, you, and Juice, you know what I'm saying, just chopping it up because I think his perspective is really unique as well as someone who is just not a gamer the way that you and I are. So yeah, man, I
Still
was
pulling up religiously for the squad.
so I really appreciate the invite and you having me here to just have the conversation, Brody. So absolutely.
Appreciate you, man. And with that, I say we got deep.
All right, Brody.